Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 50 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert who has championed financial empowerment for women, extraordinary women just like you. For over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yep, showing the world that at 50, 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Paris, France, Whitney Cubbison. Whitney is a dual American and French citizen living in Paris since 2009. She is the author of novels Will There Be Wine and Will There Be Love, both centered on expat life, dating, and reinvention in Paris. Whitney, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here, and we're going to dive right into how you got there, where you are. You grew up in Texas, and I find this very curious, especially everybody tune in, grows up in Texas, okay? But she has a little rebellious streak, right? And she is not doing Spanish in middle school. No, she is not. She is doing French, by George, and she later graduated UCLA with a degree in French, excuse me, and eventually became a dual American and French citizen in 2022. Started her career in communications working for high-tech PR agencies in San Francisco and eventually joined none other than Microsoft, where she worked for 16 years, 13 of which were from the Paris office. Talk to us about this. Wow.
Yeah, I definitely had my rebellious moment in middle school where I was like, no, I'm not taking Spanish. I'm taking French. It was the least practical decision I could have possibly made, but it turned out exceptionally well. So I'm very happy that I did that. I started working for Microsoft in Seattle. And in the communications department. So I was doing product PR for Microsoft and learned shortly after joining the company in Seattle that they had their international headquarters in Paris. And I just went, I
Ah.
think I have an idea. I had spent my junior year abroad in Lyon, France, again because of a rebel streak, wanting to do something that was not Paris. But then when I was there, I realized that everyone goes to Paris for a reason because it's pretty fabulous. And so then at age 21, I just sort of said, one day I will come back and live and work in Paris, no matter what, and had been really looking for the job to get me over ever since. And it was with Microsoft in 2009. I came over to be the speechwriter for the head of international sales. He's a French guy who lived here, and I got to travel all over the world with him as a speechwriter and do some amazing stuff. And it was supposed to be a 2 to 3 year expat contract to work for him. And I basically just refused to leave. So here we are, 16 years later. I got my French citizenship in 2022. And yeah, now I'm here and doing this. I left Microsoft in the same year. And at that point, I had already written the second draft of my first novel. And to be honest, I think when I left the company, I thought I was taking a little break from corporate life and was just going to do this novel as a one-off, and life had other plans for me.
It did indeed. And talk to us about that first Paris apartment, kind of like a little hole in the wall.
No, I mean, that's the advantage of coming over on a corporate contract is they really kind of help set you up. And it's funny because, all things are relative, right? And so I actually moved here. I was married. I moved over with my husband from Seattle, and we had lived in a 3 bedroom, 3 story, 3.5 bath, brand new house in Seattle, as one does. When we
Yeah.
both worked for Microsoft, and that was our first home that we bought together. And we moved into a 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartment in Paris that seemed small to us. But everybody that we met that came over was like, this is the biggest apartment I've ever seen.
Everybody's flat
So,
job.
all things are relative. And now I've since, downsized. I'm now in my 1 bedroom, 1 bath, very lovely apartment. But it's amazing how little space you actually need at the end of the day.
Right now. And incidentally, a wraparound balcony and an Eiffel Tower view. But beyond
In
that,
In
Yeah.
the first apartment, we did have that advantage. It was, I think when you're moving to Paris and your first time in your first apartment, that's kind of like a must-have if you can afford it and figure it out, is, the balcony and the Eiffel Tower view. So yeah, that was probably the big selling point on that apartment, I admit.
Completely, completely. So, I mean, talking about the left side and the right side of the brain, I mean, you're there at Microsoft. Now, yes, you're doing executive speech writing and communications and social media and so forth, but boy, then you transitioned. And what I'm reading is that a lot of your friends were cracking up and very intrigued with all of your stories about dating after you're divorced. And
Yes.
they said, Whitney, why don't you write a book? And it seems that you either had that idea on your own or it was buttressed by their encouragement. And all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but you released Will There Be Wine? Talk to us about it.
There it is. This is Will There Be Wine?
Wow. Oh, love it.
Yeah, so I really, I mean, I got divorced after about 2 years of living here, and so then started the adventure of looking for love again. After, I was 10 years with my ex, and so I was doing all of this in a new language, in a new culture, and in a new technology paradigm because texting didn't even exist the last time I had been single. And so
Right.
then to jump into the world of dating apps and all of these other things, plus the language and the cultural differences and all the rest, it was a bit overwhelming. And there were plenty of mishaps and missteps along the way, both cultural things and just me being very new to that game at the time that led to some unexpected and unintentional hilarity, let's say, along the way. And so as I was telling these stories to my friends, enough of them said, "Oh my gosh, you have to write a book," that one day I just decided to believe them. So here we are.
Adorable. Yeah, it's referred to as the minefield of dating in a foreign country. Yeah. So you released that in 2023. And the Will There Be Wine follows Austin Keller, an
Yes.
American expat. And so there's very, very interesting interrelationships with your personal life. And then, of course, you had to add some stuff in order to make it a good novel.
Yeah.
Amazing how you did this romantic drama about a disastrous first dates and so forth. And then you had so much fun writing that book that you decided to write your sequel, Will There Be Love? Thank you. Talk to us about this.
There it is. Sure. Yeah. So I honestly, like I said, I think that when I left Microsoft, I was not intending to become a novelist. I was intending to take a break. I left there on the back of COVID, the death of my father, and just, a couple of really quite crap years where I was like, you know what, I think I need a minute to just like recover and do something totally different and clear my mind. And so that first book was really for me a bit of therapy of processing those first like 5 years of my post-divorce life of really, I mean, a lot of that book was about self-discovery and about figuring out who you are and what you want and what you accept in your relationships and what you don't. And so it was a nice way for me to kind of process the person that I had become, that I was becoming, or that I wanted to become, and through that writing process. And then somewhere along the way, I had an idea for this another book because I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. We were actually sitting on a beach in Sardinia, as one does as a European,
Yes.
um, and having a chat. And she told me, in all seriousness, that her parents had never told her that they loved her. And so as a result, she was having a very hard time saying it to her partner and her new kid. And I found that so heartbreaking,
Yeah.
that I really started to think a lot about love and about how it can either lift you up or screw you up, depending on how it shows up in your life.
Mic
And
drop.
and
Mic drop.
also because I had been single for so very long at this time, I was thinking about the balance between romantic love, platonic love, and familial love, and how does one necessarily need to put romantic love at the top of the hierarchy? Can the other types of love create a fulfilled life? And so it was really kind of some of those musings that led me to come up with the idea for the second book, which actually, so the Austen character, who's the me character from book one, she ends up with a guy whose name I won't tell you for no spoilers. So she ends up with a guy at the end of book one, and the main character of book two is actually his first love. And so she's married and her husband's cheating on her, and They all end up in a villa in Ibiza for her 40th birthday. The mistress shows up, much drama ensues. So where the first one was a rom-com, the second one is a rom-dram, I like to say. So it's a romantic drama, but it's really that exploration of love in all its forms through the lens of these two couples. So one of them, Austin and her guy, are just falling in love, and these two are 12 years married, two kids, relationship in crisis. And so it's just really kind of an examination of love and how it builds and breaks and all of the things that kind of go into building a life with someone. So yeah, that was the second one, and now I'm working on the third one. So
Let's not leave Will There Be Love Yet? You talk about the love theme seem to be love is a deliberate choice, not just chemistry. Love is tested by secrets, infidelity, and old wounds. And this is so powerful, Whitney. I commend you. A very different writing challenge, and many that one that many would never take. You're writing it from 4 points of view.
yes.
And that includes the male point of view as well. So, talk to us about how you kind of, interwove that because that's kind of complicated.
It is. And, when I started to think about maybe I want to write a second book, I was like, well, I want to do something that's going to challenge me too as a writer to figure out how to grow and evolve and build on what the good stuff from book one. And so one of the things that I got a lot of good feedback on from book one was dialogue. And so I was like, I want to do something that's pretty dialogue heavy. And the first book took place over the course of about 5 years. And so I really liked the challenge of trying to write something that mostly took place in a weekend.
Yes.
So most of this second book takes place in a villa in Ibiza over the course of one weekend. So I liked the compressed time frame.
Yes.
And I also, because I was jumping off on this idea of the person whose parents had never said they loved her, I was like, well, that's not the Austen character. That wasn't her backstory. So then I knew that the main character needed to be someone else, but I wanted it to be a sequel. So I was like, how do I weave that together? And so the four-part narrator became a good writing challenge. It became something because it was about two couples that were both living something very different. I felt that it was important to have all four of their voices represented. And it was just a fun challenge for me to figure out how to do that. And I did for the guys' voices. I mean, I read a lot. I think I read 162 books last year. And when I'm reading now, I'm reading with, novels with that in mind of like, what do I like about how these characters come to life? What sticks with me? What doesn't? And so I'd been paying attention to that in just what I was reading, but I did have a guy friend of mine read the guy narrated chapters. And I said, will you just check and make sure that these sound like dudes and not dudes written by women? Because like I wanted that to feel authentic. And I think there's a lot of guys that you read in romance novels where you're like, that guy is so not real. He is
Yeah,
such fiction.
yeah.
And and I wanted it to have a realistic bent. So I did work pretty hard on that.
Nice. So this whole aspect of feeling and choice, I'm so about choice in life. I know that a lot of people, I mean, it's tough. It's tough now, for everyone. And the aspect of us regaining control of ourselves. You talk about the emotional reinvention after disappointment and Will There Be Love? Talk to us about how we can leverage that very core message about if we're feeling down, we can reinvent ourselves. We actually have the choice to be a reactor, not a victim. And that makes a difference in our lives. So talk to us about how you've interwoven these very core human characteristics and given us hope.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I love the question. I think that, as a divorcee myself, I got divorced, I think, at 35. And I was with him from 25 to 35. And there's obviously a lot of change that happens in one's life in that period. And now I'm 50, and there's a lot of change that happens between 35 and 50 for sure as well. And I do think that as I look back on my life, I figure I think I have lived so many lives in this one life that I've had already. Like I think about my Microsoft life, my married life, my early Paris life, my, Microsoft Paris life, my writer Paris life. And all of these feel like different lifetimes somehow,
Yes.
but there are a few things that are consistent. And I think the big one for me is about female friendship. That's a really big theme in both of my books because your girlfriends are going to stick with you no matter what. The friends that are meant to be in your life are going to stick with you through all the thick and thin. And I think that mirroring that you get from your friends, to say, like I had a good friend of mine here in Paris say to me once, like I actually love our group of friends because when I look around at the amazing women that are in this group, I think, well, I must be pretty cool too to be part of this group.
There you
If
go.
these are the women that have chosen me, then what does that mirror back into my own self-confidence? And,
Ex-
and I loved that she said that. I thought it was a super well-made point. And I do think that that is one of those things that you have to kind of look around and say, okay, well, I'm doing something right.
Yes.
And if if I'm doing this part right, like where can I make other improvements? And I think to be really happy in life, you have to be a lifelong learner. You have to always be seeking out new knowledge, new experiences, new people sometimes that just kind of expand your world a little bit.
Thank you.
And that's I think a big thing for me in dating. I'm still single and still looking. And what I always say is, like my world is pretty great. And if I'm gonna let someone in, he's gonna need to make it greater.
Yes.
And it's a high bar. And I think that's just one of those things that you have to keep the bar high for yourself to say like this is the life that I want to lead and I'm not going to, and this is not to attack my ex-husband, but the way that our relationship worked, we worked in a similar field and
Yeah.
he felt like we were competing on things in life. And
Mm,
so I often, and this is my fault, allowed myself to get smaller to
yes.
not make him feel bad. And
Oh,
I think as I seek joy in the next parts of my life, I'm like, I will never shrink for anyone ever again. I think the right people in your life are the ones that say, here's the stage, take up all the space that you deserve, grab it with both hands, and then maybe take up some more. And I'm going to be here cheering you on along the way. And I think whether it's a friend or a lover or a whoever in your life, like those are the people that I seek out and that I want to let into my space to say, like, life isn't over till it's over. And so, like, let's keep it interesting along the way. And that's a big function of who you let into your life, friends, lovers, or otherwise.
I couldn't agree more. And I love the facet of expansion and asking ourselves that question because you can get caught up in the in love and all that euphoria. And ultimately, we want to ask, is this decision in a friend or lover or partner or a friend, is this a new association going to enhance me and expand me and allow me that space in which we find
Hmm.
ourselves and discover ourselves? And if it doesn't, then I really think we have to separate our intellect from our emotion, right? And really allow the intellect to come in because commitment is a serious matter. Um, this obviously, all of this writing has helped you shift or realize the priorities in life. I mean, this isn't a dress rehearsal. And now you're working on your third novel, Will There Be Time? Oh, give us a sneak peek.
Yes. So the while the second book's main character was the first guy's first love, the third book's main character is that guy's sister.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a second chance romance. So it starts on the Eurostar between London and Paris. She's on her way to go there for the weekend for a work thing. She's a photographer. She meets a guy. To make it short, they have one great night in Paris, and then he's a tourist who's there from New Zealand. He disappears, she disappears, and then part two, 9 years later, the sister is coming back to Paris to visit Austin and her guy. And that guy has since moved to Paris and become friends with her brother. And so it is like she's there for a week of activities and they keep seeing each other. He's got a girlfriend, and so it's a big will they or won't they in the short time that they have together reconnect. And so it's yeah, will there be wine? Will there be love? Will there be time? Is the series. And yeah, I'm almost done with the second draft. It's gonna be out maybe in the fall, maybe in the spring. I haven't really decided, but it's getting close and I'm very excited about it.
I'm excited about it too. And what an interesting and thought-provoking and emotion-provoking series and interweaving of all of these very real life themes. And I know we're getting to the end of our time. So talk to us about any last parting thoughts. I read that you're also known for helping other authors with branding and promotion. Are you still doing that?
I am doing that. My history at Microsoft was all in communications and PR, and I think a lot of authors, especially self-published authors, the marketing piece is the big scary piece. They're like, I just want to write. I don't want to have to think about how to go out and sell myself. And that's one of the things that I actually really enjoy doing with the history that I have like kind of blending the two lives, my former life with this life, and using some of those skills to help people go get the word out. So yeah, I'm definitely doing that. I also am a volunteer for Democrats Abroad, working in the communications team for them, trying to get Americans living abroad to vote. So I keep very busy between the consulting work that I do, the Democrats Abroad work, the marketing, the first two books, the writing of the third. It's all good. And if anybody wants to get in touch, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Whitney Cubbison Writes. I know you're going to put the links in the show notes. And I'm also on LinkedIn for professional stuff as Whitney Cubbison. So yeah, happy to love getting DMs from readers. Love connecting with folks looking for interesting stories. So yeah, absolutely.
I'm really eager for it. Is there time? I mean, I always about time. Time and health are our two assets, and I don't want to waste either one of them. And so that whole
Yes,
aspect of the ambiguity of time, and if we're lucky, we have more time. And so let's not waste it. It's been a real
absolutely.
pleasure, Whitney. I so appreciate you, your contributions to life and to the literary world. They seem to be continuing to blossom. I don't know how you get the time and energy to do what you do. And yet, this aspect of continuously reading is so vital. And I certainly am an avid reader myself. I'm not sure it was 162 books, but it's all about our expansiveness. And especially as we age, women are typically societally kind of shuttled off to the side, like, are we done with you? And we are not done with the world because
No way.
such an impact. So, women just like you are giving us the vision through your literary work, and we appreciate and honor you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Deborah.
Indeed. And thank you, viewers, for joining us on the We Can Do It Women show. Remember, I see you, I value you, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. And if today's episode sparked something in you, I invite you to check out what it is that's a little ember burning within you that you may fan the flame of, and we may support you in the We Can Do It Women Facebook group community. So join us at that group, and we will be happy to we will happy to be of a support in your next chapter because, as I say, it's within you. Let's birth it. All right. Thank you so much and make it a great one.